My sister's hand connected with my 6-month-old daughter's cheek at 7:14 on Christmas Eve. The sound was small, a flat, wet crack against baby's skin, but it split something open in our family that had been sealed shut for 30 years. Brooke was filming. She was always filming. Her phone propped against the gravy boat. Ring light clipped to her chair like she'd come prepared for a production, not a family dinner. And when Lily screamed, that high, startled wail that only a hurt infant makes, my sister's first reaction wasn't horror. It wasn't even surprise. It was annoyance. She glanced at her phone, checked the frame, and said, "Can someone shut her up? I'm live." I stood there holding my daughter against my chest, feeling her tears soak through my blouse, and I looked around that table. My mother stared at her plate. My father didn't move. The whole room stayed silent. What happened in the next 48 hours cost my sister her career, my parents their pride, and me the family I'd spent my whole life trying to hold together. But it also gave me something I didn't know I needed: the truth about who they really were. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories. I'm Chelsea, 32, a pediatric ER nurse married to an Army captain. This is about what happened when my influencer sister slapped my baby on Christmas and what we found out after. If someone in your family ever made you feel crazy for protecting your own child, drop a comment below and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Growing up, Ashford meant growing up in Brooke's orbit. My sister was 5 years older, louder in every room, and from the time I could remember, the axis our family spun around. Not because she was kind, not because she earned it, because she demanded it, and my parents found it easier to comply than to correct. My mother, Patty, sold insurance until Brooke's influencer career took off, and suddenly retirement looked possible at 57. My father, Don, managed a textile plant for 30 years and spent his evenings in a woodworking shed behind the house, sanding chairs and avoiding conversation. Brooke built an Instagram empire, 2.3 million followers, brand deals with kitchenware companies and athleisure lines, a curated feed of family brunches and motivational captions. Her bio read, "Big sis, best life, blessed." I found it grating in a way I never said out loud. I was the other daughter, the one who waitressed through nursing school, married a soldier, and worked night shifts in a pediatric ER. My parents came to one of my graduations, the high school one. They attended every milestone Brooke staged for content. I didn't resent it exactly. I'd accepted it the way you accept weather. Brooke was the sun, I was background sky. What I didn't accept, what I refused to accept, was the idea that my daughter would grow up in the same pattern. Lily would know her worth without performing for it. That was the whole reason I'd hosted Christmas. First holiday in our house, first time our family would gather around our table on our terms. Brooke had been divorced 8 months by then. Her content had shifted to healing journeys and finding myself posts that performed well with her audience. She needed family footage more than ever. I should have seen that coming. I spent 3 days preparing that house. Garrett hung stockings. I baked a ham and 2 pies. We set out the good plates his mother had given us as a wedding gift, white with a thin gold rim. Lily had a red velvet onesie. She looked like a tiny ornament. I called Brooke the week before, kept it direct. No filming at dinner, no phones at the table. This is Lily's first Christmas, not content. Brooke's voice was breezy. Sure, whatever. I'm not a monster, Chelsea. I told Garrett that night. He was cleaning his service boots at the kitchen table, a habit from deployment that never left. "If she starts filming, I'll handle it," he said, not aggressive, just factual the way he delivered briefings. My parents arrived at 4:00. Patty held Lily and cooed. Don sat in the recliner and turned on the pregame. For about an hour, it felt normal. It felt like what I'd wanted. Then Brooke pulled into the driveway 40 minutes late, wearing a cream cashmere sweater and heels that clicked on our front steps like a countdown. She hugged my mother first, complimented the table second, looked at Lily third. "She's gotten big," Brooke said, the way you'd comment on furniture. She set her oversized leather bag on the counter. I saw the ring light inside it, cylindrical, unmistakable, tucked between a makeup pouch and a portable charger. My stomach tightened, but I said nothing. She'd agreed to the rules. People keep their word, that's what I believed then. Garrett caught my eye across the room. He'd seen it, too. He gave me a small nod. We were ready. We thought we were ready. Dinner was fine for 40 minutes. Ham, sweet potatoes, rolls. Patty told a story about a church potluck. Dawn ate quietly. Brooke asked Garrett about deployment, half listening while her eyes drifted to her phone in her lap. I nursed Lily in the bedroom and came back to find the table cleared of plates but not tension. Brooke had moved her phone to the table, propped it against the gravy boat. The ring light was clipped to the back of her chair, casting a warm glow across her face. She was live. I could see the comment stream scrolling. "Brooke," I said, "I told you no filming." She didn't look up. "Relax, it's just a holiday vibe check. My followers love family stuff." Lily started to fuss in my arms, a normal sound. Bobbies fuss. They squirm and they make noise because they're 6 months old and the world is overwhelming. The fussing turned to crying, not screaming, just that rhythmic, tired cry that means she needed to be rocked or fed again. Brooke's jaw tightened. She glanced at the phone screen, then at Lily, then back at the screen. "Can someone shut her up? I'm live." I opened my mouth to respond. Before I could, Brooke reached across the space between us and slapped Lily across the cheek. Not a pat, not a brush. Flat, open-palmed slap that left a red mark on skin that had never been touched in anger. Lily screamed. The kind of scream that makes your chest cave in. I pulled her against me and stepped back, my hand cradling her head. The table went silent. My mother looked at her plate. My father's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Garrett set his napkin on the table. He didn't throw it. He folded it once and placed it beside his plate the way he'd fold a duty report. Then he stood, full height, 62, 12 years in the army, and every one of them visible in the way he carried himself across that dining room. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't clench his fists. He walked to where Brooke sat, still holding her phone, and he looked down at her with the expression I'd seen him use once with a private who'd endangered his squad through negligence. Controlled. Absolute. Leave. Now. Brooke blinked. She looked around the table, searching for an ally the way she searched for likes. "It was barely a tap," she said, her voice pitched higher. "She's being dramatic. You're all being dramatic." My mother shifted in her seat. "Chelsea, honey, she didn't mean it. You know how Brooke gets when she's stressed. You're overreacting." I stood at the edge of the room. Lily pressed against my shoulder, her cries softening into hiccups. I waited for my father to speak. Don sat with his hands flat on the table. He said nothing. His silence filled the room like smoke. "I said leave," Garrett repeated. "I won't say it again." He walked to the front door and opened it. Cold December air rushed in. Brooke stood slowly. She picked up her phone. She reached for the ring light. She put on her coat and she walked out without a word of apology. Not to me, not to Lily, not to anyone. The door closed behind her. I looked at my mother. She was adjusting her napkin. My father was staring at the centerpiece. My daughter's first Christmas dinner was over. The silence after Brooke left was worse than the slap. At least the slap had been honest, cruel, but honest. What followed was theater. My mother stood up and began collecting dishes as if clearing the table could clear what had happened. "Well," Patty said, stacking plates with forced efficiency. "I hope you're satisfied. It's Christmas, Chelsea." She was stressed about her divorce. "You know how fragile she's been." I stared at her. She hit Lily. She tapped her. "Bobbies are resilient. You're a nurse. You should know that." The sentence landed like a second slap. My father pushed back from the table. He reached for his jacket on the coat rack. "Dawn," I said. "She hit my baby, your granddaughter." He paused at the door, one arm in his sleeve. "Your mother handles these things," he said. "I stay out of it." And they left. Drove home in their Buick, 45 minutes down I-95, as if they'd just attended a slightly awkward dinner party. Garrett locked the front door. He checked every window, a reflex from years of securing perimeters. Then he sat beside me on the kitchen floor, our backs against the cabinets. Lily had fallen asleep on my chest, her breathing finally even. The dining table was still set, ham going cold, candles burned down to stubs. The red velvet onesie had a small wet spot where my tears had dripped onto Lily's shoulder. "You okay?" Garrett asked. "No," I said, "but Lily is. That's what matters." He put his arm around me. We sat there for a long time. The Christmas I'd planned, the one where my family finally gathered at our table and saw what I'd built, was over. Something else had begun. 3 days after Christmas, my mother called. I was charting at the nurse's station, end of a 12-hour shift, still running on broken sleep because Lily had been fussy every night since the incident. The pediatrician said she was fine physically, no bruising, no swelling. But she startled easier now, flinched when doors closed too fast. "You need to apologize to Brooke," my mother said. "No greeting, no preamble, excuse me. You embarrassed her, Chelsea, in front of her own family on Christmas. She's been crying for 3 days. She hit my daughter. It was a little tap, Bobby's cry. Brooke was overwhelmed. You know how she gets." I leaned against the wall of the break room and closed my eyes. I'd heard that phrase my entire life. You know how she gets. It covered everything Brooke had ever done. Tantrums at 13, screaming matches at 20, doors slammed so hard the frames cracked. You know how she gets. It was the family motto, the universal solvent that dissolved every act of cruelty into something manageable. The next morning, a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Hi, Chelsea, this is Tara Jennings, Brooke's publicist. Brooke is devastated by what happened. This kind of family misunderstanding, if it becomes public, could seriously impact her brand and partnerships. Can we schedule a call to resolve this privately? Her brand, her partnerships, not Lily, not the red mark on a baby's cheek. Her brand." I didn't respond. I called someone else instead. My Aunt Janine, my father's younger sister, 58, lived alone in Raleigh after her husband passed. She'd always been the honest one in the family, the one who said what everyone else was thinking. "Chelsea," she said when she picked up. "I was wondering when you'd call. Honey, this isn't the first time." Janine told me the story the way you report a car accident, clinical, detailed, still shaken underneath. Thanksgiving 2019. The family gathered at my parents' house. My cousin Kevin and his wife Stephanie brought their son Marcus, 4 years old. Brooke was filming a Grateful Family segment for her channel. Marcus ran through the frame during a take, giggling, chasing the dog. Brooke grabbed his arm and squeezed until he screamed. When Stephanie pulled him away, there were finger-shaped bruises above his elbow. Stephanie wanted to call the police. My parents intervened. There was a conversation behind closed doors. My mother, my father, Brooke, and Stephanie. When it ended, Stephanie and Kevin left with $5,000 and an understanding. Patty told Stephanie it was a one-time thing. Janine said that Brooke was under pressure from a brand deal deadline, that going public would hurt the whole family. She offered the money as help during a tough time. "It was hush money," I said. "Your mother would call it a family matter handled privately." I thought back. Thanksgiving 2019. I'd been deployed with Garrett. He was stationed at Fort Hood, and I'd taken a travel nurse contract in Texas. I missed the gathering entirely. When I asked my mother why Kevin and Stephanie stopped coming to holidays, she'd said they moved. That was the lie. Seamless. Delivered with the same casual tone she used to say, "Pass the salt." "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked Janine. She was quiet for a moment. "Your mother begged me not to. Said it would ruin Brooke's career if it got out. I should have told you anyway. I've regretted it every day since." "Her career," I said. "That's what they were protecting. That's what they've always been protecting." I sat on the edge of our bed that night after Lily was down, phone in my lap, and made a list. The way I make lists at work when I'm triaging. What's critical? What's urgent? What can wait? Critical. Brooke had hit at least 2 children that I knew of. Pattern behavior spanning 6 years, my parents had covered both incidents. Urgent. If I did nothing, there would be a third. Maybe Lily again. Maybe someone else's child at a birthday party or a holiday dinner or a content shoot that needed a well-behaved kid in frame. What can wait? My feelings. I called Stephanie the next morning. She picked up on the first ring as if she'd been holding the phone for 5 years waiting. "I wasn't sure anyone from that family would ever call about this," she said. Her voice was guarded, but underneath it was something raw. She confirmed everything Janine told me and added a detail that made my hands go cold. Brooke hadn't just grabbed Marcus's arm. She'd grabbed a fistful of his hair first, yanked his head back, and hissed at him to hold still. When Marcus cried harder, she squeezed his arm. "He had nightmares for 8 months, Stephanie said. He's 9 now and he still won't go near anyone who raises their voice. Why didn't you go public? Your mother said if we did, they'd say we made it up for money, that nobody would believe us over a woman with 2 million followers. The calculation was ugly and precise. The family had leveraged Brooke's fame as a shield. Who would the public believe? A beloved lifestyle influencer or a family nobody had heard of? I thanked Stephanie. She said, "Whatever you're going to do it for all the kids she hasn't gotten to yet." I hung up and called Garrett. "I need to go to Grandma Ruth's house." Drive to Sanford took 2 hours on roads I knew by heart. Grandma Ruth's house sat at the end of a gravel lane off Route 421, a white clapboard ranch with a wraparound porch and a vegetable garden gone to seed. She'd been gone 2 years. Cancer took her at 82, and the house was still waiting to be listed because nobody in the family could agree on a realtor. I had a key. I let myself in and stood in the hallway breathing in the ghost of lavender sachets and old wood. Ruth had been the only person in our family who said exactly what she meant. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't argue. She just stated the truth with the calm certainty of someone who'd lived long enough to stop being afraid of it. I missed her the way you miss a compass when you're lost. Her bedroom was unchanged. Quilts folded at the foot of the bed, reading glasses on the nightstand next to a water-stained Bible. I opened the closet. Boxes, photo albums, greeting cards, a set of china wrapped in newspaper, and on the shelf above the hanging rod, a cardboard box marked personal in Ruth's careful cursive. I brought it to the kitchen table. Inside, letters from friends, a few recipes, a photo of my grandfather in his army uniform, and an envelope sealed, my name on the front in blue ink, for Chelsea when the time comes. My grandmother had known. She'd known something would happen, and she'd written this letter for the exact moment I'd need it. I held the envelope in both hands. The paper was slightly yellowed. She'd written it at least 2 years ago, probably more. I tucked it into my coat pocket. I needed to read it at home with Garrett, with Lily nearby. I needed solid ground under me. While I was in Sanford, Brooke was busy. I pulled into the driveway and Garrett met me at the door, phone in hand, face set in the expression he wore when delivering bad news. "You need to see this," he said. Brooke had posted a video on Instagram, 47 seconds, perfect lighting, perfect tears, voice trembling at exactly the right frequency. My own sister banned me from Christmas because I held her baby wrong. She made her husband, my brother-in-law, the big military man, physically threaten me in front of our parents. I've been crying for days. All I wanted was to spend the holidays with my family. The video had 1.8 million views in 48 hours. The comments were a wall of sympathy. "Stay strong, Brooke. Some people weaponize their children. Sounds like jealousy to me. Classic younger sister energy. Military husbands think they intimidate everyone." I scrolled through them. Strangers Hawk knew nothing about Lily, nothing about the red mark on her cheek, nothing about the sound a baby makes when she's been struck by someone who should have protected her. And they'd already decided the story. By the next morning, I had 63 messages from accounts I didn't recognize. "You should be ashamed. Brooke is a saint and you're trying to destroy her. Hope CPS checks in on your kid." The worst one included our home address. Tara, Brooke's publicist, sent me an email with the subject line "Path Forward." The body. "This situation could be resolved with a brief public statement from you acknowledging the misunderstanding. Brooke is willing to move past it if you are. A simple post would make this go away." I closed the email. I didn't respond. Garrett looked over my shoulder. "Don't play their game on their court," he said. He was right. My mother showed up at my front door on a Tuesday morning without calling first. She stood on the porch in her good coat, purse clutched in both hands, the way she stood when she was about to deliver a speech she'd rehearsed in the car. "This has gone too far," Patty said before I'd fully opened the screen door. "Brooke is losing sponsors. 2 companies pulled out yesterday. You need to fix this, Chelsea." I let her in because Lily was napping and I didn't want voices on the porch waking her. We stood in the kitchen. I didn't offer coffee. "She hit Lily, Mom. She was having a bad day." You know how she gets. There it was again, the motto. I talked to Stephanie. I said my mother's face changed. The rehearsed composure cracked at the edges the way plaster cracks before a wall gives way. She set her purse on the counter, slowly. That was different, she said. That was handled. You mean you paid them $5,000 to keep quiet? We helped them. They were struggling financially. It was a kindness. It was a bribe to protect Brooke's brand. My mother looked at me with something between anger and fear. We can help you too, she said. But you have to stop digging, Chelsea. You're going to ruin everything she's built. I asked the only question that mattered. How many times, Mom? How many times has Brooke hurt someone's child? Patty picked up her purse. She walked to the door. She stopped with her hand on the knob. For a moment, I thought she might answer. Might tell me what I was about to find out on my own. Instead, she said, "You don't understand what you're doing," and pulled the door shut behind her. That night, Lily slept through for the first time since Christmas. Garrett was on the couch reading a field manual with a highlighter, the way he unwound. I sat at the kitchen table with Ruth's envelope. I slid my thumb under the seal and unfolded 2 pages of her handwriting. Small, precise, slanted slightly left. Dear Chelsea, it began. If you're reading this, it means something happened. I hoped it wouldn't. I prayed on it. But hopping and praying don't change what's true. And what's true is that your sister has been this way since she was small. Ruth wrote the way she spoke. Plain, unsparing, without cruelty. She described Brooke at 8 hitting a classmate who won an art contest Brooke had lost. She described Brooke at 15 twisting a younger cousin's fingers behind her back at a barbecue because the cousin had accidentally spilled juice on Brooke's new shoes. Each time Patty and Dawn had intervened, moved schools, made apologies, written checks, smoothed it over. Your parents chose to look away because looking at it meant admitting they failed. Ruth wrote, I didn't look away. I kept everything. She directed me to the cedar chest in the attic. A folder, school records, medical receipts, a letter from the Henderson family next door. I am old and I am tired and I have kept this weight long enough. You're about to be a mother, Chelsea. You'll understand soon that a woman will do anything to protect her child, even from her own family. When the time comes, you'll know what to do with what I've left you. Trust yourself, you were always the strong one. They just never noticed. I set the letter down and pressed my palms flat on the table. Garrett looked up from his manual. What did she say? I told him. He closed the book. I drove back to Sanford the next morning. This time I went straight to the attic. The cedar chest sat beneath the eave, dust on the lid, smelling of mothballs and time. Inside, beneath a layer of quilting scraps and a folded American flag from my grandfather's service, I found a manila folder with a rubber band around it. I sat on the attic floor and opened it. The school incident report was dated March 1995. Brooke Ashford, age 8, had struck a classmate named Jennifer home during art period after Jennifer received first place in the spring art show. The teacher's note said, Brooke punched Jennifer in the stomach. Brooke told the counselor Jennifer had tripped. Dawn and Patty withdrew Brooke and enrolled her at Westside Elementary the following week. No disciplinary record transferred. A medical receipt from Cape Fear Valley Hospital dated July 2003. Patient, Tamara Ashford, age 10, my second cousin. Diagnosis, fractured wrist, consistent with a fall. Handwritten note clipped to the receipt in Ruth's writing. Brooke pushed Tammy down the back porch steps. Patty told the ER doctor she fell while playing. I was there. I saw it. A letter from Mrs. Dorothy Henderson, our former neighbor, written to Ruth in 2008. I know she's your granddaughter, Ruth, but I watched that girl through my kitchen window pinching the Keller's cat until it bled. That child has something wrong inside her, and nobody in your family is doing a thing about it. I've prayed on it, and I felt I had to tell you. 30 years, 3 decades of incidents, each one documented by a grandmother who saw what no one else was willing to see. My parents had watched this for 30 years. I sat on that attic floor until my legs went numb. Then, I took the folder and drove home. I spread everything across the kitchen table like a patient chart. Garrett pulled up a chair beside me, and we built the timeline together, the way he'd map an operational sequence. 1995, Brooke, age 8, punches a classmate. Parents withdraw her from school, no consequences. 2003, Brooke, age 16, pushes cousin Tammy down porch steps. Broken wrist. Parents tell the hospital she fell. No consequences. 2008, Brooke, age 21, hurts a neighbor's cat. Mrs. Henderson writes to Ruth. Nobody confronts Brooke. No consequences. 2019, Brooke, age 32, grabs and bruises 4-year-old Marcus at Thanksgiving. Parents pay Stephanie and Kevin $5,000 no dollars consequences. 2025, Brooke, age 37, slaps 6-month-old Lily at Christmas dinner. Parents tell me I'm overreacting. The pattern was undeniable. Each incident worse than the last, each victim younger. Each time my parents had closed ranks, opened their checkbook, and moved on. She's escalating, Garrett said. He didn't say it with anger. He said it the way you state a tactical assessment. And they're enabling it. I picked up Ruth's handwritten note about Tammy. The words at the bottom caught me. I heard Brooke tell Tammy before she pushed her, "Shut up or I'll push you again." Shut up. The same command, the same impulse. 17 years before Christmas dinner, Brooke had said the same thing to a child who was bothering her. Shut up. The words didn't evolve because the person behind them hadn't either. I called Stephanie. Would you be willing to talk about what happened if it came to that publicly? The line was quiet. Then, I've been waiting 5 years for someone to ask me that question. If you've ever been the one your family expected to just forgive and move on while the person who hurt you got protected, I see you. That's not overreacting. That's having a spine. If this story hits close to home, share it with someone who needs to hear that protecting your child is never the wrong call. And hit that subscribe button because this is just the beginning. Brooke posted a new video the following week. Longer this time, 7 minutes. Shot in her apartment in Charlotte, which she'd staged to look like a cozy reading nook. Blanket draped artfully over an armchair, a mug of tea she never drank, soft piano music underneath her monologue. My sister is trying to destroy my career over a Christmas misunderstanding, she said, dabbing her eye with a tissue she'd positioned perfectly in frame. She's jealous. She's always been jealous. While I built something meaningful, she chose a different path. And I respected that. But this, going behind my back, talking to family members, dredging up old stories, this isn't about protecting her baby. This is about tearing me down. Her followers mobilized. Within 72 hours, fake 1-star reviews appeared on the Google page for Wamak Army Medical Center, where I worked. Rude nurse, terrible bedside manner, would not trust her with my child. I reported them to hospital administration. My supervisor, a retired Army colonel named Major Kim, pulled me aside. Are you safe at home? Is this domestic? I explained. She listened. She documented it for HR and told me to keep my head down. Tara sent a cease and desist letter to our home address. Garrett read it at the table, shook his head, and set it aside. There's no legal basis here, he said. You haven't said a word publicly. He was right. I hadn't, not yet. Garrett reached out to a JAG officer at Fort Liberty, Captain Reeves, Army Legal, someone Garrett had served within a previous rotation. Reeves listened to the situation and gave us a referral. This is civilian territory, he said, but I know someone who handles defamation and family law. She's good. The lawyer's name was Sandra Holt. Office in downtown Fayetteville above a sandwich shop, diplomas on the wall, a desktop so organized it looked like a field kit. She reviewed everything. The timeline, the cease and desist, Brooke's videos, the fake reviews, the messages from strangers. Your sister's public statements contain several factually false claims, Sandra said. She said her brother-in-law physically threatened her. He didn't. She said you banned her from Christmas. You hosted and she was invited. She characterized a slap as holding the baby wrong. These are actionable if you want to pursue defamation. I don't want money, I said. I want the truth on the record, Sandra nodded. Then here's my advice. Don't post anything. Don't respond to her videos, her publicist, or the trolls. Document everything. Screenshot every post, every message. If she escalates and based on what you've shown me, she will have options. What kind of options? The kind that involve a courtroom if it comes to that. But there may be other ways. Media coverage, for one. There's a reporter at WRAL who's been covering influencer accountability. Her name is Dawn Fielding. I filed that name away the way I file critical vitals in the front of my mind, ready when I needed it. Garrett drove us home. Lily slept in her car seat, one fist wrapped around a stuffed rabbit. "This isn't revenge," Garrett said, eyes on the road. "This is accountability." I believed him. 11:00 on a Thursday night. Lily had been down for 2 hours. I was folding laundry on the couch when my phone rang. My mother's name on the screen. I almost didn't answer. Chelsea. Her voice was different. The rehearsed authority was gone. What was left sounded like a woman standing at the edge of something she'd spent 30 years avoiding. "Mom, I know she has problems." The words came out like she was pulling them from a locked drawer one at a time. I've always known. When she was 8 and hit that girl at school, I sat in that principal's office and I knew. I looked at my daughter and I knew something was wrong. But she was mine, Chelsea. What was I supposed to do? She was my baby. I set the laundry down. This was the closest my mother had ever come to the truth in my entire life. I could hear her crying, not the performative Brooke deployed for content. Real crying, the kind that sounds ugly. "She's 37, Mom," I said, "and she hit my baby. I know that. And I know what your grandmother kept. I know about the folder. You knew about the folder. Ruth told me before she died. She said she'd leave it for you because you were the only one strong enough to do something with it. And you didn't warn me. You didn't think I should know before I invited Brooke to hold my daughter." Silence. "Then if you go public with this, she'll lose everything. Her sponsors, her income, and your father and I, we need that money, Chelsea. The mortgage. She pays $2,200 a month. Without that, we lose the house." There it was. "You're asking me to protect the person who hit my daughter so she can keep paying your mortgage. I'm asking you to think about the whole family." I am thinking about the whole family, starting with Lily. She hung up. Brooke had 2 million people believing her version. I had a folder from my dead grandmother and the truth. If you've ever watched someone rewrite history while the people who should have protected you stayed silent, you know exactly how that kitchen table felt. Leave a comment and tell me what you would have done. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time because we're not done. Brooke announced her next move on Instagram stories the following Monday, a grid post with soft pink lettering on a cream background. "Family Healing live stream this Friday at 8:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm done staying silent. It's time to share my truth." She promoted it for 3 days straight. Reels, stories, a countdown sticker. By Thursday night, 50,000 people had clicked Remind Me. Tara sent me what she called a courtesy heads-up via email. Brooke will be sharing her perspective during Friday's stream. Given the sensitivity of the situation, we strongly suggest you refrain from watching or engaging. Any public commentary from you during the broadcast could be considered interference and may have legal implications. I showed it to Garrett. He read it once and set the phone on the counter. "She's going to cement her version for 50,000 people," I said. "And you have 30 years of documentation that says otherwise." He was right. But I wasn't going to crash Brooke's live stream. That was her court, her arena, her lighting. Anything I said there would be framed as jealous sister causing drama. I needed a different platform, one she couldn't control. I picked up my phone and made 3 calls. Stephanie, Aunt Janine, Lindsay Henderson, Dorothy Henderson's daughter, now 35. I asked each of them the same question. Would you be willing to tell the truth on camera, on the record? I laid everything out on the dining table like I was prepping for a code. School incident report, 1995. Ruth's handwritten notes. Cape Fear Valley medical receipt, 2003. Henderson letter, 2008. Stephanie's account of Thanksgiving 2019 with photos she'd kept of Marcus's bruises, purple and yellow fingerprints on a 4-year-old's arm that she'd photographed the day after because a mother's instinct told her she might need proof someday. Screenshots of every video Brooke had posted since Christmas, the cease and desist from Tara, the threatening messages from strangers, the fake hospital reviews. Garrett helped organize it chronologically. He'd done this before, assembled evidence packages for investigations within his unit. He was methodical, color-coded tabs, printed copies, digital backups on a thumb drive. Stephanie agreed to do a recorded interview. She was nervous, but steady. "Marcus still sleeps with the light on," she told me over the phone. "He's 9, he should be past that." Aunt Janine agreed. "I should have spoken up 5 years ago, I owe you this." Lindsay Henderson agreed. Her mother Dorothy had died in 2020, but Lindsay had the original letter and remembered her mother telling her about watching Brooke through the kitchen window. "Mom always said somebody should do something. I guess it's finally time." I didn't make a video. I didn't write a social media post. I compiled a factual, documented timeline, dates, evidence, witness names like a medical chart, clear, clinical, unchallengeable. I practiced my delivery in the bathroom mirror. Not the words, I knew the facts. I practiced the tone, steady, even, measured. The way I reported a critical patient to the attending physician. No tears, no trembling voice, just information that needed to be heard. Friday night, 8:00. Garrett and I sat on the couch with the laptop open. Lily was asleep in the nursery. Brooke went live. The setup was impeccable, warm lighting, a bookshelf behind her arranged by color. She wore a cream blouse, gold earrings, hair in soft waves. She looked like a woman who'd been wronged because she'd spent her entire life perfecting exactly that appearance. "Hi, everyone," she said, voice measured, eyes glistening. "Thank you for being here. I know a lot of you have seen things online about my family. And I owe you the truth." The viewer count climbed. 40,000. 50. 62,000 people watching Brooke Ashford tell her truth. "My sister Chelsea and I had a disagreement at Christmas. I reached for her baby, my niece, and she overreacted. Her husband, who is a military commander, physically intimidated me and forced me to leave." She paused to dab her eyes. "Since then, my sister has gone behind my back. Snorts, she's contacted estranged family members. She's dredging up stories from decades ago, things that were resolved privately to try to paint me as something I'm not." The comments poured in. Hearts and prayers and fist emojis. "Stay strong, Brooke. Toxic family members are the worst. Your sister sounds like she's jealous of your success. She's always resented that I built something with my while she works night shifts at a hospital," Brooke said. The sentence was precise, calculated, designed to diminish everything I'd earned. She ended with, "I just want my family back. That's all I've ever wanted." The stream ended to a standing ovation of emoji. 62,000 people now believed a version of events that was almost entirely fabricated. I closed the laptop. Garrett looked at me. Now, I said. I called Dawn Fielding on Monday morning. She picked up on the second ring. Dawn was a senior reporter at WRAL in Raleigh. And for the past year, she'd been running a series called Behind the Brand, investigations into influencer culture, brand accountability, and the growing legal debate over children's rights in family content creation. Sandra Holt had been right. Dawn was the right person for this. I gave her the short version. She listened without interrupting. "I need to be direct with you," she said when I'd finished. "We don't do hit pieces. We don't take sides, but if you have documentation and witnesses willing to go on the record, we can report the facts and let the audience decide." "I have 30 years of documentation," I said, "and 3 witnesses. Send me everything. I'll need a week to verify." I sent the folder, scanned copies, the timeline Garrett and I had built, Stephanie's contact information, Janine's, Lindsay's. Dawn's producer called me 2 days later. "We've confirmed the school transfer records. The Cape Fear Valley receipt matches their files, and we've spoken with all 3 witnesses independently. They're consistent." He paused. "Mrs. Thompson, this is bigger than one Christmas dinner." I knew that. I'd known it since I sat on that attic floor reading about a girl who punched her classmate at 8 and escalated to slapping a baby by 37, while 2 parents stood by and did nothing except write checks and change the subject. Dawn scheduled the segment for the following Thursday. I asked what I should wear. "Whatever you're comfortable in," she said. I chose my scrubs, not for sympathy, because they were the truest thing I owned. I earned those scrubs. Nobody gave them to me. Nobody could take them away. Before the segment aired, I drove to Fayetteville to my parents' house, not to see my mother, to see my father. Don was in his woodworking shed behind the house, the place he'd retreated to for 30 years whenever the family needed him. The radio was playing oldies. He was sanding a rocking chair. He'd been making one since Lily was born, but never finished it. Sawdust on his flannel shirt. Coffee going cold on the workbench. "Your mother says you're talking to reporters," he said without looking up. "I'm talking to anyone who will listen, Dad, because no one in this family ever did." He kept sanding, back and forth, the rhythm steady, like he could sand the conversation away if he just kept going. "You're going to tear this family apart, Chelsea. It was never together. You just pretended it was by staying out here in this shed while Brooke hurt people." His hands stopped. The sandpaper went still. He set it down carefully on the workbench, the way a man sets down something heavy. "I didn't know it was that bad. You didn't want to know. There's a difference." He looked at me for the first time, walked in. His eyes were wet, not with sadness, with something older. The expression of a man realizing the walls he built to stay comfortable had also kept him from seeing the damage. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. "I wanted you to stand up at that dinner table, Dad. I wanted you to be the one who said leave, but you didn't, and I can't go back and fix that for you." I turned and walked out through the sawdust. He didn't follow. The rocking chair sat unfinished behind me. I don't know if he ever completed it. Don's segment aired on a Thursday at 6:00. WRAL title on screen behind the filter, "A Family's 3-Decade Secret." It opened with Don standing outside Cape Fear Valley Hospital, then cut to interviews. Stephanie went first. She sat in her living room in Wilmington, Marcus, visible in the background doing homework. She described Thanksgiving 2019. The grab, the bruises, the money. Her voice broke once and she let it. She didn't perform grief. She reported it. Aunt Janine went next. She spoke from her kitchen in Raleigh, hands folded on the table. She described the conversation she'd had with my mother, the begging, the rationalizing, the silence that followed. "I kept that secret for 5 years, Janine said. "It cost me sleep and it cost me my conscience." Lindsay Henderson appeared via video call from Virginia. She held up her mother's original letter. Dawn zoomed in on the handwriting. "My mom saw what was happening," Lindsay said. "She told the one person who would listen, and that person kept the evidence until someone was brave enough to use it. Then it was my turn. I sat in a chair at the studio wearing my Scrubs badge clipped to my pocket. Dawn asked me what happened on Christmas. I told her no embellishment, no tears, facts. My sister hit my 6-month-old daughter at Christmas dinner. My parents told me I was overreacting. My grandmother tried to warn us for 30 years. I went looking for the truth and I found it." Dawn presented the documents on screen. School report, medical receipt, Henderson letter, timeline graphic. Everything verified, sourced, and displayed without commentary. The segment ran 11 minutes. By midnight, it had 200,000 views online. People started connecting it to Brooke's Family Healing livestream. The comments on Brooke's old video began to shift. The dominoes started falling on Friday morning. 2 of Brooke's major sponsors, a kitchenware brand and an athleisure company, pulled their partnerships within 48 hours of the segment airing. Their statements were corporate boilerplate. "We take allegations involving children's safety seriously and have paused our collaboration pending review." A third sponsor, a meal kit company, quietly removed all of Brooke's content from their website without issuing a statement. Her follower count, which had been 2.3 million the week of Christmas, dropped by 70,000 in the first day alone. The comment section on her most recent video, the Family Healing livestream, had become a battlefield. Half her audience defended her. The other half demanded answers. "Why didn't you address the news segment? Is the bruise photo real? If your grandmother documented it, how can it be lies?" Brooke responded the way she always responded to pressure. She announced another live stream. "Tonight, 9:00 p.m., I'm addressing every single lie my sister and the media have spread. I'm not running. I'm not hiding. I'm fighting for my truth. Tara texted me. You've made a terrible mistake. Brooke is going to destroy you tonight. You should have taken the deal." I read the message and set my phone face down on the counter. Garrett came in from the garage. She's going live again. I know, you're not worried. I thought about it. Genuinely thought about it. Was I worried? She's going live because she can't stand not controlling the story. I said, but 140,000 people are going to watch her now with different eyes. They've seen the documents. They've heard the witnesses. She can cry all she wants. Crying doesn't change a school record from 1995. Garrett nodded. We put Lily to bed. Then we waited. 140,000 viewers. The number pulsed in the corner of the screen like a heartbeat. Brooke's setup was different this time. The bookshelf was gone. She sat at a plain desk trying for gravitas, but her makeup was slightly uneven and her hands wouldn't stay still. She kept adjusting her ring light, clicking it brighter then dimmer, as if the right amount of light could make this go away. I want to start by saying that everything my sister has put out there, the so-called documents, the interviews, it's a coordinated attack. She began. Her voice was higher than usual, tighter. My grandmother had dementia. Those notes she kept were the ramblings of a confused old woman, and the people my sister found paid. Every one of them was paid or coerced. The comments were already mixed. Blue hearts from loyal followers, but interspersed now. Screenshots from the WRAL segment, link after link. If your grandmother had dementia, how do you explain the verified school records? Cape Fear Valley confirmed the medical receipt, Brooke. That's a hospital document, not a grandmother's note. Brooke read the comments. Her jaw worked. She took a sip of water and her hand shook enough that she set the glass down too hard. You know what? Fine. She said, let's talk about Chelsea. My perfect sister Chelsea, who married her soldier boyfriend and thinks that makes her better than everyone else. The word perfect came out like a slur, sarcastic, bitter, and in that moment the mask slipped. Not all the way, but enough for 140,000 people to see something underneath the curated surface that didn't match the woman who'd cried so beautifully in her first video. Brooke's composure didn't crack. It shattered. Chelsea was always the boring one, she said, leaning into the camera, eyes wet but not with sorrow anymore, with rage. The one who married some soldier and wipes up sick kids for a living. She's jealous. She's always been jealous of what I built. And now she's using our dead grandmother, a woman who, by the way, never liked me, to destroy everything I've worked for. She knocked over her ring light. It clattered against the desk and fell to the floor, casting harsh shadows up from below. She didn't fix it. And those people on the news, they were compensated. My parents helped that family because they were struggling, not because I hurt anyone. That kid fell. He tripped over the dog and fell, and somehow that becomes abuse. Because my sister needs a story. Her voice climbed. The carefully modulated tone from the first live stream was gone. What remained was raw and unfiltered and desperate. And if my sister thinks she can drag me through the mud because she's married to some captain who thinks he can throw people out of houses, she's got another thing coming. I built this. 2 million people chose me. She stopped, stared at the camera, 140,000 people staring back. Her chest was heaving. Her hands gripped the edge of the desk. And then she said it. The words that no amount of editing or explanation or crisis management could ever undo. Can someone just shut them all up? The same words. The same pattern. The same demand for silence that had started this entire story. Except this time it wasn't directed at a baby. It was directed at everyone who'd ever questioned her. And 140,000 people heard it in real time. The comment section became the courtroom Brooke never wanted to stand in. She literally just proved the sister right. Wait, shut them up. That's exactly what she said about the baby. 3 decades of this and the parents just watched. Brooke, you need to stop talking. Right now. Somebody clip this before she deletes it. They clipped it. They screen recorded it. They shared it across platforms before Brooke could process what had just happened. She saw the comments shifting. Read them out loud by accident. Her eyes tracked across the screen and her lips moved the way a person reads something they can't believe. You don't know anything, she shouted at the camera. You don't know what it's like to have a family that doesn't support you. To build something from nothing while your sister gets a husband and a house and a baby and everyone thinks she's the good one. Off camera, a voice, Tara, sharp and urgent. Brooke, end the stream. Now, no, Brooke pointed at the camera. They need to hear my side. I am the victim here. I have always been the victim. The viewer count held at 138,000. Nobody was leaving. They were watching a woman dismantle herself in real time. The sponsors who hadn't yet dropped her were being tagged in comments by the hundreds. Clip compilations were already being assembled. The woman who had built an empire on the appearance of warmth and family and blessed living was showing the world exactly what lived underneath that facade. And the world was paying very close attention. The ring light lay on its side on the floor. The perfect lighting was gone. What was left was just Brooke, red-faced and trembling, arguing with a comment section that had stopped believing her. I wasn't watching when Brooke imploded. Jard had turned off the laptop after the first 10 minutes. "You don't need to see this," he'd said. He was right. He showed me the clips later. I nodded. It was exactly what I'd expected and nothing I took pleasure in. I didn't celebrate. You don't celebrate when a building collapses, even if the building was rotten. The next morning I wrote a statement. Not a video, not a live stream, not a post crafted by a publicist or lit by a ring light. I wrote it on my personal Facebook page, private, barely 200 people, and I wrote it the way I charted a patient report. My name is Chelsea Thompson. I'm a pediatric ER nurse at Womack Army Medical Center. My sister hit my 6-month-old daughter at Christmas dinner. My parents said I was overreacting. My grandmother spent 30 years documenting a pattern that our family refused to acknowledge. I don't want revenge. I don't want followers. I want my daughter to grow up in a family where hurting children has consequences. That's all. Someone screenshotted it. Someone shared it. By morning, it had been reposted 40,000 times. The contrast was clear enough for anyone to read. Brooke, with her ring light and her tears and her rage, Chelsea in 23 lines of plain text. That evening my phone rang. My father, first call from him in weeks. "I watched the live stream," Don said. His voice was hoarse. "I watched what she did. And I should have listened. I should have done something a long time ago. You should have, but you didn't, and I can't fix that for you anymore, Dad." The next morning, my parents drove to our house without calling. Garrett answered the door. I walked up behind him. I looked at my mother. I looked at my father. "Leave now." The consequences arrived like lab results, one by one, clinical, irreversible. Within a week, Brooke lost 14 sponsors. Her monthly revenue dropped from $35,000 to near zero. The athleisure brand issued a public statement. The kitchenware company quietly removed her from their ambassador page. The meal kit service released her contract entirely. Her follower count fell by 400,000. The Family Healing live stream and itsequel were deleted from her profile, but it didn't matter. Clips lived everywhere, reaction videos, commentary channels, news aggregators. You can't delete something 140,000 people watched you say in real time. Tara publicly parted ways with Brooke. Her statement was one sentence. "I wish Brooke well in her future endeavors." The language of professional severance. A lawyer representing Brooke's ex-husband contacted WRAL requesting copies of the segment for use in a pending custody evaluation. He'd seen the documented history. He had questions about Brooke's fitness around children. Stephanie and Kevin's story was finally believed. Not by my parents, they still hadn't called, but by the rest of the family. Aunt Janine called Stephanie personally to apologize for 5 years of silence. "You shouldn't have had to wait this long," Janine said. I blocked Brooke's phone number. I changed the locks on our house not because I was afraid, but because I was on. Finality is different from fear. One is a closing, the other is a running. I was closing. My parents' mortgage, $2,200 a month that Brooke had been paying, was now their problem. I didn't feel guilty about that. They'd chosen their investment. It hadn't been in the right daughter. New Year's Eve. Lily went down at 9:00, which felt like a small miracle. Garrett and I sat on the front porch in folding chairs, the kind every military family owns because real furniture is always one PCS move away from getting dinged. The street on base was quiet. A few houses had Christmas lights still up. The air was sharp and cold in that clean North Carolina way. "I keep waiting to feel guilty," I said. Garrett looked at me. "Do you?" "No, I feel lighter, like I've been carrying someone else's furniture and I finally put it down." I didn't say anything for a while. Garrett's silences weren't like my father's. My father stayed silent because he was hiding. Garrett stayed silent because he was making sure whatever he said next was worth saying. "You did the right thing," he said. "I know it's just strange that the right thing cost me my entire family." "It didn't cost you your family. It cost you the people who chose a brand over a baby." My phone buzzed. Aunt Janine. "Happy New Year, sweetheart. I'm proud of you. Ruth would be too." Stephanie texted. "Marcus asked if he could send Lily a birthday card. Thank you for all of us." I read both messages twice. These were the people who'd shown up, not with ring lights and rehearsed speeches, but with the truth it cost to themselves. I went inside and checked on Lily. She was asleep on her back, one arm flung out, fist curled around nothing. I leaned down and kissed her forehead. "Nobody touches you," I whispered. Outside, fireworks started somewhere off base. Garrett came in and stood beside me at the crib. We watched her breathe. It was the best New Year's I'd ever had. June, Lily's first birthday. We held it in the backyard, paper plates, a sheet cake from the commissary, a kiddie pool Garrett had spent 20 minutes inflating with a bicycle pump while cursing under his breath. The guest list was small and deliberate. Garrett's parents drove down from Virginia. His mother held Lily for 2 straight hours, and nobody had to perform for a camera. Aunt Janine brought a wind chime she'd made from old spoons. Stephanie and Kevin came with Marcus, who was shy at first, but warmed up when Garrett let him try on his patrol cap. 2 families from our block on base showed up with casseroles and juice boxes. No Brooke, no Dawn, no Patty. Patty had sent a birthday card. I opened it alone in the kitchen the night before. Pink envelope, store-bought card with a teddy bear on it. Inside, in my mother's handwriting, "I miss my granddaughter." I put it in a drawer, not in the trash. Maybe someday, but someday requires accountability first. And my mother hadn't gotten there yet. She hadn't called to apologize. She hadn't acknowledged what happened. She missed Lily the way you miss a possession. Not a person. My father had not called at all. Brooke had rebranded. New handle, new aesthetic. She was calling herself a wellness coach now with 120,000 followers, a fraction of what she'd had. I didn't follow her, didn't check, didn't wonder. I'd gone back to work full-time. 3 months after the segment aired, I was promoted to charge nurse. Garrett received new assignment orders. We were moving to Joint Base Luce McCord in Washington State. Fresh start, new city, a place where nobody knew us as the family from the WRAL story. Lily took her first steps the week we started packing. She walked right to Garrett. The hardest boundary I ever set wasn't with my sister. It was with the part of myself that believed keeping the peace was the same thing as keeping my family safe. For 30 years, my parents treated silence like a strategy and called it love. They covered, they paid, they looked away. And every time they did, they taught Brooke that her actions had no consequences and taught me that my pain wasn't worth the disruption. I stopped accepting that lesson on Christmas night when a man I trust stood up and said the only 2 words that mattered, and I realized I'd been waiting my whole life for someone in that room to say them. Not to rescue me, to remind me I had the right to say them myself. That's the whole story. A ring light on a Christmas table, Agrind Mather's letter sealed in a cedar chest, 2 words from a man who meant them, and a mother who finally stopped apologizing for protecting her child. If you've ever had to choose between your family's comfort and your child's safety, you already know which one matters. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories like this one and leave a comment. I read every single one.